From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now! We're broadcasting from the Sundance Film Festival in Park City, Utah.
There is no way you can produce a country that will actually have services for its citizens if its major corporations don't pay tax.
Exactly what Mitt Romney and his private equity firm Bain Capital did very little of, says Jack Blum. We'll speak with his former Senate investigator, now chair of Tax Justice Network USA. And then, as President Obama gives his State of the Union address, we look back at a promise he made in his 2010 address, a nuclear renaissance, the focus of a new film here at Sundance called The Atomic States of America.
The Brookhaven National Laboratory conducts sophisticated nuclear experiments, producing an enormous amount of deadly waste.
The only research I had said that my daughter's cancer was caused by low-level radiation, and Brookhaven National Laboratory was the only source of that.
We will speak with the film's director, Sheena Joyce, and Kelly McMasters, author of Welcome to Shirley, a memoir from an atomic town. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The four leading Republican presidential candidates gathered in Florida Monday night for a debate ahead of the state's primary 1 week from today. With the race now seen as wide open in the wake of Newt Gingrich's victory in South Carolina, Romney sharpened his attacks against Gingrich as an influence peddler in Washington, a claim Gingrich denied.
He had to resign in disgrace from this job as Speaker. I had the opportunity to go off and run the Olympic Winter Games. In the 15 years after he left the speakership, the Speaker has been working as an influence peddler in Washington.
There's a point in this process where it gets unnecessarily personal and nasty, and that's sad. The fact is, I've had a very long career of trying to represent the people of Georgia, and as Speaker, the people of the United States. I think it's pretty clear to say that I have never, ever gone and done any lobbying.
Newt Gingrich has taken heat for earning at least $1.6 million in fees from the mortgage giant Freddie Mac after he left office. On Monday, documents were released showing a portion of Gingrich's work included reporting to Freddie Mac's top lobbyist. The disclosed contract failed to specify the nature of Gingrich's tasks for Freddie Mac. Romney, meanwhile, released tax forms showing he paid an effective tax rate of 15.4% last year and an even lower rate of 13.9% the year before, substantially lower than the rate of most working Americans. Overall, Romney reported income of $43.6 million for 2010 and 2011, virtually all of it from investments. Romney's charitable contributions included $4.1 million to the Mormon Church. The Romney-Gingrich rivalry is set to intensify ahead of the Florida vote with a new infusion of cash from outside backers. On Monday, it was revealed Gingrich supporter Miriam Adelson will donate $5 million to the pro-Gingrich super PAC Winning Our Future, which has run a series of ads attacking Romney. Adelson's husband, the casino magnate Sheldon Adelson, recently gave Winning Our Future another $5 million. As Romney and Gingrich come under intensified focus, Rick Santorum and Ron Paul both challenge the pair's respective conservative credentials.
On the three issues that got the Tea Party started, that are the base of the conservative movement now in the Republican Party. And there is no difference between President Obama and these two gentlemen. And that's why this election here in Florida is so critical, that we have someone that actually can create a contrast between the president and the conservative point of view.
Nobody's defined what being conservative means. And I think that is our problem. Conservative means we have smaller government and more liberty. And yet, if you ask what have we done, I think we've lost our way completely. Our rhetoric is still pretty good. But when we get in charge, we expand the government.
President Obama, meanwhile, set to counter Republican attacks and preview his own re-election campaign with tonight's State of the Union address, the last State of the Union of his first term. The Supreme Court has ruled police must obtain a search warrant in order to track a suspect's movements with GPS. On Monday, the Supreme Court ruled for the first time that police monitoring through attaching a GPS to a suspect's vehicle is a constitutionally protected search. The ruling marked a defeat for the Obama administration, which had fought to overturn an appeals court ruling that warrants are required. In a statement, the American Civil Liberties Union called the decision, quote, an important victory for privacy, adding, quote, the court acknowledged that advancing technology like cell phone tracking gives the government unprecedented ability to collect, store, and analyze an enormous amount of information about our private lives. A retired CIA agent who publicly confirmed the torture of al-Qaeda operative Abu Zubaydah has been charged with leaking classified information. John Kiriakou, who served from 1990 to 2004, is best known for a 2007 ABC's News interview detailing how Abu Zubaydah was waterboarded in CIA custody. On Monday, Kiriakou was indicted on allegations of revealing the identity of a covert officer, leaking classified information, and lying to a CIA publications review board. The Justice Department says Kiriakou disclosed the identities of CIA officers involved in Zubaydah's interrogation to journalists. He's the sixth person the Obama administration has charged under the Espionage Act and its crackdown on government whistleblowers. Kiriakou faces up to 20 years in prison. The prosecution of the last of the U.S. Marines charged in the 2005 Haditha massacre of 24 Iraqi civilians has ended in a plea deal that will result in, at most, 3 months behind bars and possibly no jail time at all. The victims, including women and children, were killed when the Marines burst into their homes and shot them dead in their nightclothes. On Monday, the Marine squadron leader, Staff Sergeant Frank Wuterich, pleaded guilty to negligence as part of a deal that will wipe out charges of involuntary manslaughter. During his trial, a fellow Marine testified Wuterich called for violent retaliation against Iraqi civilians if they were attacked. Wuterich allegedly told his men, if we ever get hit again, we should kill everyone in that vicinity. Under the plea deal, Wuterich will face a maximum of 3 months confinement, a pay cut for 3 months, and a reduction in rank. He was the last defendant to face charges for the Haditha killings. 6 other Marines have had their charges dropped or dismissed, while another soldier was acquitted. In news from Iraq, at least 6 people have died and 23 have been wounded in a pair of car bombings in Baghdad. Both attacks came in the neighborhood of Sadr City, the latest in a wave of attacks on Shia areas. Egyptians are preparing to mark the first anniversary of the revolution that led to the ouster of longtime ruler and U.S. government ally Hosni Mubarak. Protests are scheduled for Wednesday to celebrate the revolution while calling on Egypt's military rulers to hand over power. On Monday, Egyptian lawmakers held the opening session of the first elected parliament since Mubarak's fall. Democracy Now! Tomorrow will broadcast in Cairo, Egypt. We'll be speaking with Democracy Now!'s Sharif Abdel-Quddus. The Obama administration is reportedly considering the repatriation of non-Afghan prisoners held at the Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan before handing over control of their detention to the Afghan government. The foreign prisoners were either arrested in Afghanistan or rendered to Afghanistan after being seized in other countries. The European Union has enacted sanctions banning imports of Iranian oil and freezing Iranian central bank assets as part of an international effort to pressure Iran over its alleged nuclear activities. Earlier today, Britain warned it could further deploy troops to the Gulf if Iran follows through on a threat to close the Strait of Hormuz. In Washington, White House Press Secretary Jay Carney said Iran will face continued sanctions.
This process will continue to intensify, so that Iran understands fully that the pressure will not let up and the isolation will not stop until they decide to make the right choice, which is to abide by their commitments internationally and to come clean, if you will, on their nuclear aspirations.
And newly released documents show the New York Police Department screened an anti-Muslim video to officers in training far more frequently than it's previously been disclosed. The NYPD drew criticism 1 year ago following the disclosure. Officers were shown the 72-minute The Third Jihad video in the NYPD's required counterterrorism training courses. The Third Jihad is said to depict gruesome imagery, coupled with the argument that Muslim leaders and organizations in the United States are part of a plot of global jihad. The New York Police Department has claimed the video was only shown a couple of times to a handful of officers. But according to the New York Times, police records show the video was in fact played on a continuous loop for nearly 1,500 officers and possibly more for up to 1 year. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We're broadcasting from Park City, Utah, from the Sundance Film Festival.